Hello! First round fantasy fans. Welcome on into the First Round Fantasy Podcast, your home for second round advice. We have some lightning in the studio tonight, or I guess from our chairs, our individual chairs. There's lightning all over California. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are happy to have you with us tonight. I am joined, as always, by Jacob Bartley, Joseph Morsaz, a.k.a. Joseph Swift, and Justin Morsaz. I'm your host, Gabriel Miramontes. We're missing DeMont Ricks tonight. He's scared of Halloween, so he's staying away from all of the scary stuff we got going on today's show. How are we doing tonight, guys?
Doing all right.
Doing all right.
Yeah.
Are you guys ready for Halloween?
Oh yeah.
I love Halloween, but I'm probably gonna be working, so it sucks.
I mean, most of us are at that weird age now where it's like, guys, we're like a little too old to be like, but I get fucking pumped, man. I take my nieces out to do trick-or-treating, bro. I like look forward to that. I want to see all the decorations. I'm a kid at heart, man. I love that stuff.
Are you guys doing the trick-or-treating this year too?
Oh man, I don't know. Well, now you're bringing up, political crap.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yes, I'm going trick-or-treating. I don't know what you're talking about, boy.
So I was thinking about that. Like, are people gonna go around? Kids are still gonna knock on doors and stuff. I'm not sure, but I live in an apartment complex,
bro.
I see kids running around. I'm like, these damn kids are gonna be knocking on our door that night. I already know they are.
Yeah.
But no, I love Halloween, Gabe. It's my favorite holiday, to be honest. I like, as adults, I love throwing parties and dressing up and stuff, but can't do a lot of that this year.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And the Morsaz brothers, they're already scary enough, so they're spooky all year around.
Evil twin Justin, he doesn't even need a costume, bro. This guy tormenting our leagues, blowing people out by 100, and then complaining that he's struggling.
Listen, I dropped. Yes. I mean, I did drop 250, but I could have had more if I just started.
Oh, but he could have had 320.
My bad. I could have done it. It was a great week, very nice week. I loved it.
Some of us were fortunate. Some of us had bad luck. Which brings me to our festive themed questions of the day, folks. In the spirit of the great holiday, Halloween, I have two questions for you today. And this first one, who is a player that you are terribly scared of playing rest of season? And I'll start us off to give you guys a good idea of what I'm thinking about. And I don't have a player. I have a specific group of players. And that is the Tampa Bay Buccaneer wide receivers.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I am terribly scared to play anybody on that offense. I don't know rest of season, but definitely next week after 2 dud weeks from Mike Evans. And quite frankly, he's only had 2 great weeks out of his first 7. Then you have Godwin with the injury-prone problems. Now you're throwing Antonio Brown into the mix. Gronk is starting to get some love. Scotty Miller has flashes. This team is so good that you become nervous of not making the right pick. And for instance, next week, man, I don't know about Mike Evans. I'm scared to start him. Now, am I? Most likely, yes, I am. He's one of the only wide receivers I have on my team right now. And you drafted him to start him every week and week in and week out. But by golly, Joe Jeepers Creepers, I am scared to play anybody on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going forward this year. It is going to be a toss-up week in and week out, at least until we have a week or 2 with Antonio Brown there to see how things shake out. But I'm not playing anybody from there until then. Avoiding at all.
That is a good one, but I don't mind Chris Godwin. I think Chris Godwin's going to be the one there right now.
Well, this is a man that only has Mike Evans, so that's why I went with it.
No, that's a good one. I mean, Mike
well.
Evans as your answer is good enough. I don't blame you. I feel the same exact way.
Well, I'm glad you feel that way, Jacob. Who's a player that you are terribly scared of?
To be honest, right now, and I've been scared of him for a while, is Miles Sanders. And it's not because he's not talented. Like, if we say this all the time. Look, fully healthy Miles Sanders, put him on the Chiefs, he might be the best running back in fantasy football. Like, that's logical to say, I think. But with on the Eagles team where it's just their team's so random, like offensively, and then also he's injury prone, and I don't think Boston Scott takes away from him when he's healthy, but they have a guy who can step in and take his place if they need to. So I don't feel good about having him on my roster the rest of the year. So he does scare me.
Hey, that's not a bad one, man. I mean, he's Joe's player of the year coming into this season, and he's had great weeks, and he's had injury concerns. So someone I'd definitely be scared of as well. Sorry, oh my gosh.
I can never put blame, like you could be hot on a guy coming in, but injuries, like you can't do anything about that. Like
you can't, man. It's part of the
he's
game.
had some really good weeks when he's healthy.
That is very true. Joe, who is a player that you are oh so terribly scared of the rest of this season?
So I think I misunderstood the question because initially I had thought we were putting down one guy that scares us to play against, and then one guy.
Hey, I'll take it that way too, man. Give us that one.
So the guy I'm afraid or scared to play against is Aaron Jones, because I feel like every time I play that dude, he goes for 50. And he's hot and cold, dude. He'll have 12, 14, 16, and then blow for 50. And I feel like every time he blows up for that 50, he's going against me. So it's just been one of those guys that I can't catch a break against. And that's why I'm glad to have him in the league.
Justin Jefferson has become the wide receiver version of that almost.
Seriously. At least 6 weeks in or 7 weeks in.
Nah, that's a solid pick. And that's honestly, that's Aaron Jones' MO, man. You don't become the RB2 on the year by being consistent. You do it by being Aaron Jones and blowing up for 50 points once every 4 weeks, and that just happens to be against Joe. So, sorry, but just who is a player that you are terribly scared of to either play against or that you are scared to play in general?
It's kind of interesting. I'm going Kenyon Drake, even though he's injured. It's just I loved him. I traded for him. I love that offense, but he had that one beautiful week, and now he's injured. So I'm scared because I definitely can't drop him. But what happens when he comes back? Does Edmonds play good enough where they split? Does he take over and then still put up duds? I'm haunted. I'm just staying up at night thinking about it. I don't know what to do, but I'm playing Edmonds while I have him, I'll tell you that. But Drake just keeps me up right now.
Hey, as a Drake and Edmonds owner myself in a dynasty league, I am empathetic towards your feelings. 4 good picks, boys. And it brings me to my next question, which is a little different, but kind of the same, but it's a little different. And this is, what player are you haunted by? So this could have been Joe's pick, Aaron Jones. And for instance, my pick, a player that I am haunted by, is Kenyon Drake. So a player that Justin just afterly mentioned. I was originally going to make fun of Joe because this would have been a player that he was haunted by last week when he had a comfortable 50-point lead. And that's
going to be a lingering
All right.
How much did you win by, Justin?
That seems like a good segue to open up Justin's letter.
Real quick,
Let's give some context on this, all right, guys? So
lay the groundwork. Oh!
Wow. Oh, my goodness.
All right, guys. So
I don't always run for a 69-yard touchdown, but when I do, it's to beat Joey in fantasy football.
We need it in front of the camera. Let's see it.
That is hilarious.
Guys, I knew what it was.
Listen,
I didn't even have to open it.
Last year, we were playing in the semifinals, and I had Miles Sanders going, I think, on a Monday night. Last player to play. And he just, you feel good, but he wasn't getting run. Boston Scott was hot. All I needed was something. I think he ran for like a 12-yarder at the end of the game, and I won by 0.2 to knock Joey out. It was beautiful. I sent him a nice picture, and we all know what happened with Drake, so I had to keep the tradition alive, and it was just a beautiful moment. One of my favorite moments of the year so far. I don't know what could top it. Maybe a championship.
Changes in 7 weeks, guys. That's all I'm going to say.
That was
we are at the tipping point.
That was good for the podcast.
For anybody who needs to know, yeah, it's also Joe's birthday. Feel free to give him a shout out next time.
That was his birthday gift. Happy birthday.
Very nice. Very nice. But yeah, so I did that more so for Joe. But if you also have Kenyon Drake Joe, it looks like this is the Kenyon Drake show today. We're all haunted or scared by him. Jacob, who are you terribly haunted?
All right. Look, I don't want to talk about this ever again. I'm just going to say it for this moment. It's something that haunts me all year, and it's going to haunt me probably after this year because it's in a dynasty league where in the preseason, I picked up James Robinson, and then I dropped him, and somebody else picked him up, and I am going to be haunted by that.
Who picked him up?
Gabe. Oh, look, that is my fault. I'm an idiot for it. I think about it like every other day or so.
Who did you pick up after you dropped him?
And it haunts me. I don't even remember, bro. Look, I learned my lesson. I make too many moves too quickly. Like even just in the offseason, I'm like, oh, this guy looks good. This guy looks good. This guy looks good. And I heard James Robinson was going to be the starter, and I was like, I don't believe this coach. So I dropped him for somebody else. And then I see Gabe picks him up like week 1, and it's haunted me all season.
Yep.
Good point.
Justin,
make quick moves.
or I'm sorry, Joe, who is a player that you are haunted by? You are haunted by, I should say.
So Jerick McKinnon easily, and I'll tell
one.
you guys. I was
More than
debating
one,
between-
huh?
I was debating between him and Juju, but Juju hasn't done me that bad. Jerick McKinnon has done me awful this year, man. I remember it was like week 2. Joshua Kelly came off a great week. They were going against, I think, the Panthers. So it was a beautiful matchup. Josh Kelly was my dark horse. 2 minutes before the game starts, literally, I bench Jerick McKinnon for Josh Kelly. Josh Kelly puts up like 6 points. McKinnon puts up like 18. I lose by 2. This week, I start Jerick McKinnon. He does nothing, 0.1 points. I leave Juju on my bench. Juju puts up 17. I lose to Gabe by 16. So that was the difference right there is Jerick McKinnon to Juju. I win that week. So I would say, Drake me, but yeah, Jerick McKinnon has just been my fucking Achilles heel this year, man. And I hope he does good, but he's a Niner. I'm still counting on him. I think that, I kind of told Justin this going into that game and a little bit more. I said, I don't think they're going to use him as a workhorse all year, dude. He's not built like that. We already have too many running back injuries. I just didn't expect it to be like 0. I thought, maybe he's going to work in with Hasty and Jeff Wilson Jr.'s back. Okay, fine. He gets 10, 12, 15 touches, enough to get you 12 points, 13 points. He did nothing. So that was rough.
It looks like we are all very, very haunted by certain players. So I respect all of your choices. Jacob, I wanted to mention, you say that you make a lot of moves, and I wanted to point your reference to our beer drinkers league that most of us play. And shout out to Shane.
I probably have like 30 more moves than everybody else.
You have 40 more moves than anybody else right now. I think the next person closest to you is Johnny. You have 65 moves. That means pickups, trades, players.
It's crazy.
It's not just that I'm like picking up and dropping starters or bench players. It's a lot to do with like I hold guys and then I pick up kickers late and things like that. Or I pick up a lot of guys after, like if somebody on my and then my bench has a bad Sunday morning game, I'll drop them and pick up a guy who plays Sunday night. Just things like that adds up to my total. So
it happens, man. It happens. But great way to kick off the show. Try to get into the spirit of Halloween. I thought it was Halloween, by the way, for so long. It is not.
Let me throw in my haunted out there.
Oh yeah, Justin didn't need his haunted.
I thought it was Drake. Sorry, I thought everyone's.
No, that's my player. I'm scared of continuing, but the one that's haunting me now is Zeke, and I'll tell you why.
I almost chose him too.
I think we see what's happening with him, but if you dig deeper and see his schedule coming up, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, bye. Minnesota's okay, but then Washington, Baltimore, it's a disaster. And it's like we know Zeke is great, but that team is in shambles right now. Something's wrong. And I have him in the league. I just traded him. I'm 50-50, of course, but every week is going to be nuts for me on using Zeke. Do I bench him for Edmonds? I would guess I'd have to at this point, given how the offense is. You know what I mean?
Man, I didn't even think of that. But once you said it, I'm like, dude, that schedule is menacing.
Oh yeah.
And that team, third string quarterback. Oof.
Yeah, can you get worse than Dalton though? I don't know.
And
Yeah,
that defense, you're going to be throwing the ball all day. He doesn't catch that many passes.
And he does. Pollard's doing better than him in the pass game.
Yeah, and they're not going to be scared of whoever the quarterback is. So what are they going to? They're going to take Zeke out of the game every time.
Stack
Defenses, yeah.
Pretty much. All right, guys. Solid picks in the spirit of Halloween. Let's get into some injuries.
He needs some milk.
Oh, man. Just another terrible, terrible weekend. We talk a lot about him on here on the show. We usually talk, then he burns us, then he doesn't do good for a couple of weeks, but it's never good when you have a torn ACL, and that is Odell Beckham Jr. out for the season. It sucks, man. It's just sad to see. Deontay Johnson expected to be okay after limping off the field in the fourth quarter last week. He had a great game.
Every game, dude.
Every
game.
He's the new Julio, guys. 82 and a touchdown, though. So 2 touchdowns. So
Two touchdowns, yeah.
Yeah. Andy Dalton, we obviously just talked about him. He's likely to miss a week. Philip Lindsay, concussion protocol. He's likely to miss a week after just coming back. Jeff Wilson Jr., the man that nobody saw coming, 3 TDs, and then he said, hey, guys, I'm out of here. I worked too hard. Carted off the field, man. Didn't look good.
He's out a month.
He's out a month. Yep, his teammate Deebo Samuel's dealing with the hammy. And then we have a couple of other guys. Chris Carson, expected to be week to week with a foot problem, I believe. And then we also have Kenyon Drake, who we just talked about as well, an ankle issue that he will also probably be looked at in about 2 weeks or so. So you're definitely putting Edmonds in your starting lineup the next 2 weeks. I saw somewhere that he was like a waiver wire pickup. And I'm like, if you don't have Edmonds by now in your league.
Yeah, it depends. Like, he's rostered 64% in Yahoo.
That is absurd to me.
And then in one of my Yahoo Pro leagues, which is just a random league I play with people for money online, he's available. I'm like, damn, I think I have like the third waiver wire. I'm probably not going to get him, but I'm going to try.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a perfect example of handcuffs and the importance of it. So all you non-handcuff believers,
like who has Drake and not have Edmonds? Like what?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I have Drake and Edmonds in Dynasty. I also have Drake in another league, but I do not have Edmonds. He was poached. Kind of like in Beer Drinkers when everybody poached my picks on draft night, all my handcuffs. That's the situation that I'm dealing with now. So I'll have to deal with the consequences. But just a couple of bad scenarios. What do you think, Justin?
That's testament to, like, if you're in a league and it's super competitive and the player did not pick up their valuable handcuff and you stash that handcuff and hope for the lottery. Williams, Edmonds are perfect examples that blew up this week if you use that strategy. So every week, look for those handcuffs. If someone has to drop to make room for a quarterback, that's the time to pick them up, you know?
I'm glad that you mentioned that because in our first round fantasy league, we had no handcuff for Aaron Jones. And then I immediately, when the news broke that Aaron Jones was going to miss time because he was questionable up until about Saturday. So everybody was like, yeah, he's going to play. Boom, gets the inactive tag. Then all of a sudden, I get an update on my phone, and it's A.J. Dillon being picked up off of waivers. Like he was the guy going to get the workload. I had to take the 50-50 gamble. We don't have a strong bench in that league. Picked up Jamal Williams, and holy cow, did our man provide for us.
Good deal.
We should have already had him, though.
We should have. Our team that league is very, very good. So we have to do a better job of managing our roster for sure.
Yeah. I know the hype behind Dylan, and me and Jacob had lots of talks about this going into the season. But Jamal Williams is too good, man. He's going to find his way to a starting lineup next year away from the Packers, and he's going to get a role somewhere, and Dylan will hop into his spot, and that'll be great. But for the time being, man, Jamal Williams does everything. He catches the ball. He's good on the goal line. He's literally, you throw him in there, and you don't really notice much of a difference if Aaron Jones is out.
I was thinking about this. Like, what if Todd Gurley goes somewhere else, right? and then Jamal Williams goes to Atlanta. Like
Yeah.
he would ball out there.
RB1,
Yeah.
no doubt. Honestly.
Atlanta, San Francisco. I mean, look at all the injuries the Niners have had, dude. It wouldn't be crazy to get rid of a guy like Tevin Coleman and bring in a guy like Jamal, like Williams. So
Yeah,
we'll
he's
see what
definitely
ends up-
signing somewhere else. I would think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's him
he'll,
and
he'll
Edmonds
have a
are.
starting role.
Yep.
I don't think Edmonds is going to leave. I think Drake is going to leave, and Edmonds is
Oh,
going to be
yeah.
the guy.
Oh,
there.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
100% there for sure. Yeah, I like Jamal Williams as well. He had shades last year where he showed a lot of promise, and then he was just hammered with the concussion protocol. I think like 2 or 3 times last year, so he became a shaky handcuff at best. But yeah, promising future for sure. All right, I think we're good with injuries. We moving on, fellas? Let's look at some.
Well, CMC might be coming back, but you can't do anything about it until you know for sure. But
And
I'll tell you, CMC owners do not drop the handcuff. Don't drop it.
Davis,
Mike
Mike Davis.
Yeah, even after a down week and you are expecting CMC to return, you still do not drop Mike Davis at this point
Nope.
because he's
Hey,
very. I even actually saw a beat reporter just before the show or just before our taping that they expect him to be heavily involved even upon CMC's return. So could we finally see the dreaded committee come to Carolina?
No, not with CMC. But I'll tell you guys also, CMC managers, as soon as they announce CMC's back, wait a little bit and trade for Mike Davis. Once if you don't have him, if somebody else poached Mike Davis from you, once CMC is announced to play, trade for Mike Davis so that way you get your handcuff. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Another note on handcuffs. We know that Carson's probably going to be week to week, and Hyde has a little issue with him. Do you have to go Travis Homer all day, or do you wait and see if Hyde's okay?
That's a
I
It's
don't
an
like
interesting
either of them
question.
this week, guys. I don't like either of them this week against the Niners. So we'll see. But if
Niners are
anybody,
32nd in rush defense. That's
Well,
best in the league.
And then Carson was supposed to be out like a few weeks ago, and then Hyde got hurt, and then Carson actually played. It's just I don't know. I don't feel good about picking up Hyde.
And
Yeah.
Russell throws now. Russell is clearly cooking this year. They're not the run-heavy team that they have
Tell me
been over
about
the
it.
last 2 or 3 years. So things are
Yeah.
definitely changing there in Seattle.
let's get
All
to
right.
some sleepers, boys. I'm
Well, we're
excited
getting into
about
some waiver wires first.
Put me in cold. I'm ready to play the game.
I'm ready to go in, Coach. Just give me a chance. I know there's a lot riding on it, but it's all psychological. Just got to stay in a positive frame of mind.
So before we get into waivers, I have to say something because I did a very classic move. I gave the fantasy community, I feel like I gave them bad advice. And that is last week, Boston Scott was sitting there on the waiver wire. And personally, I was burned by Scott earlier in the year. So I told players last week, or fantasy people last week, I said, yeah, he's going to be there. People are going to probably go for him. You know, he's not someone I even want to consider starting, even through a thin backfield. Well, guess what I did, folks? In every league I could get him, I went and got him.
So you told people not to get him, and then you pick him up.
And guess what? I started him in just about every league except for one. And he ended up having a very fruitful, positive fantasy performance and ended up winning me a week, actually, because the player I was considering starting him or not starting him over, I did not. And I was very thankful for that. So going forward, I will be very honest and forthcoming with my information as to how I see fit. All right. Moving on, let's talk about waiver wire pickups. I mean, guys, there's a lot of them. Most importantly, if you haven't heard about Antonio Brown yet, guess what? The man is coming to Tampa Bay. I'm terribly scared to play anybody on that field, but man, worth a fire shot. So I suggest you take a peek if he's out there.
Well,
Put your bid in.
I'll be
See what happens.
surprised if he's still available.
There's a chance. There's a chance. You never know. But if he is, put your bid in or put your waiver wire in on him. We saw the one shining week of Antonio Brown and Tom Brady last year was an ever so magnificent performance. So maybe that they look to repeat that again. That's really mine. I know Hyde's sitting out there as well in some leagues, but Joe just mentioned it. Homer's also out there. I think you got a little bit of insight as to what we think. Perrine, running back for the New York Jets, able to find his way into the end zone this week, and that was against a tough team. So his schedule opens up a little bit. I don't know what the Jets are doing, but if you're looking for a running back, Kareem's probably out there. And my last one that I can think of right now is Cole Beasley, guys. The last 6 weeks, this man has no less than 12 fantasy points last week. I mean, hey, in full PPR leagues, this guy's a go-getter. Go get yourself some points if you're looking for a safe floor. Cole Beasley's the guy, especially because that team is riding a 3-week kind of awkward downtrend, right? They lose 2 in a row. They barely squeak by the Jets in a close game. Things are Josh Allen's, their colors are starting to show, and his schedule is going to get a little bit tougher as we move on. So Cole Beasley might be his safety net. Keep an eye out for him. Jacob, you got any waiver wire pickups this week?
Yeah, I think one that kind of slipped through the radar due to bye weeks, honestly, because look, most of us, a lot of people are desperate for running backs, looking for those flyers, like rostering guys like Jamal Williams, and look how it turned out for fantasy owners who just had him on their bench. So a guy I am eyeing is actually Gus Edwards, because Mark Ingram is still – we still haven't heard an update on Mark Ingram's injury. They didn't have to update anybody because of the bye week. He could play still, and now it's a disaster with those 3. Fantasy-wise, it's a disaster with those 3. We don't want to start any of those guys. But look, J.K. Dobbins is still like 54% rostered in Yahoo, and Gus Edwards is only 10% rostered when Gus Edwards has been used more and is more consistent. And J.K. Dobbins might be harder to come by in your leagues right now, but if it's announced that Ingram's missing or is not going to play this week, people are going to rush to the waiver wire for Gus Edwards. So I would get ahead on that and pick him up now.
Mm-hmm.
If Ingram is out, those are very safe flex plays. I am confident in that because Baltimore plays with the lead so often. They're constantly running the ball in the second half of the game. That's why we've seen Lamar Jackson's quiet demise for fantasy production. Good pick, Jacob. I like it. Joe, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Yeah, so Sterling Shepard. I saw earlier today that he's rostered in less than 30% of leagues.
Yeah.
And he had a damn good game, and he is the number 1 receiver. He is the show in that town. And I think him being out and Saquon being out has hurt that offense a lot. But you know what? I watched that game this week because it was a Thursday night game against the Eagles, right? And they actually had probably their best-looking game all season. I know they lost. It came down to the wire, that Boston Scott touchdown. But Sterling Shepard looked good out there. And Evan Ingram had a chance to ice the game and just could not catch the ball. So I like it. I think that they're going to start to roll a little bit. I think that Sterling Shepard is a guy that may end up seeing your lineup second half of the season.
That's
Solid
a great
pick.
one.
He's on my radar too. So Joe, look out. I'm coming for him as well. Justin, you got a waiver wire for us?
Yeah, if I had to slim it down to one, I got to go Richard Rodgers.
I forgot. You got the list usually.
I
But that's a
always
solid
do.
one, man. Let's hear about it.
If you don't know him, third string tight end for the Eagles, got some run because both Goddard and Ertz are out. Dude had 8 targets, 6 catches, 85 yards. And if that's a tight end stat line, I'm taking that week in, week out. Wentz loves the tight ends. This guy is not rostered. If you've been running the Schultzes, the Grahams of the world, why not give Richard Rodgers a shot and hope for some consistency for at least a couple weeks until things get sorted out? He's playing Dallas, and we know what Dallas is all about. So that's a start of the week at tight end for me next week.
Man, that is especially coming from a guy who is starting the Schultzes and Grahams of the world. That's a good pick, man. Guys, great waiver wire pick.
Well, some honorable mentions real quick. I have a couple. I'm not going to go into depth. I'm just going to name them. Jermichael Hasty. I know he was picked up last week, but he's still very low rostered. Brandon Ayuk
He's a
is
must
still.
add.
Brandon
Hasty is a must add.
Oh yeah,
Must add.
well yeah, he might be a good play for the next couple of weeks. Especially Tevin Coleman might be coming back soon, so we'll see. Brandon Ayuk, I just looked. He's 49% rostered in Yahoo leagues. He was dropped a lot last week. And so I think people should be eyeing him. And also Corey Davis had a really good game And then Jalen Reagor is activated from IR. I know Justin mentioned him actually last week when we talked about dynasty players, but those are some honorable mentions for me.
Yeah,
And-
Higgins also. He ran every route for the Browns. And Odell
the
is
Higgins
gone.
on Cleveland. Yeah, with Odell out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Justin,
He
what were
ran
your
every
honorable
route.
mentions?
Those Higgins and Landry, and it ties
Yeah.
into my trade targets. With OBJ out, you got to understand when you talk about football, it's a lot of ego too. So
Well, we have
I
a trade target segment later.
no, I know I'll get to it.
Oh,
I'll
okay,
tie it in.
okay.
But my point is, those two see an uptick just because the major ego of OBJ is gone. I'm not saying they're a better football team, but quarterbacks want to feed their guys. So now with that pressure off, I'm hoping that it gets spread around.
I mean, Baker played better with him out, which is interesting.
And that's been a consistent thing. So those two are on the uptick for me.
Justin brings up a good point, and that's why I'm going to go first when we get into our dark horses. So thank you. Also, really good pick, Jacob, with Brendan Ayuk. Yeah, same thing. Deebo Samuel's going to be out probably likely a week. Ayuk coming off a strong performance. Be on the lookout. I dropped him, I think, in pick 6. So he's out there sitting, and I'm literally considering picking him up again because my wide receivers are so iffy. But those are all solid picks, guys. I appreciate it. Good waiver wire this week. I don't know why I'm talking to you like businessmen. First round fantasies, dark horses of the week. So just like with the waiver wire mention, I have to mention something here as well, guys, because, hey, I am a fan of fantasy football. I am a fan of other fantasy football podcasts. I like to give them a gander every now and again. And something that I listened to today really grinded my gears. All right. I'm not going to call out the podcast or anything, but I mean, a lot of these same podcasts, they do similar things, right? And this show's podcast, they have players of the week where they call players that they think are going to shine, kind of like our dark horses. I like to think we get a little bit riskier. We get into the dirt with our picks, and I like it just a tad bit more. These guys, man, they did not go back and talk about the players that they had suggested the week prior. And you know why they didn't do that? Because I went back and listened to the prior week, and all their players did poo-poo in their pants, man. They were horrible. And so they didn't want to come out and say that they made bad picks. They covered it up. They cooked some dirt over it. And I'm here to tell you guys, we don't do that. And a perfect example of that is because we didn't do good this week either, but I'm not afraid to say it, all right? Because we're the first round fantasy team, second round advice. Sometimes it hits, doesn't, but at the end of the day, we're here for you, and we're honest about it, all right? With that being said, we have our new and improved spreadsheet because it's 2021 or it's 2020 and everybody needs a spreadsheet. Let's review some of last week's picks. I had Justin Jackson as my dark horse. I was putting him in as a lockdown 15-plus fantasy point performance. He was unfortunately a few shades shy of that. Jacob, the man himself, thought Latavius Murray would see some run. He did not see as much run as we would have liked. All right.
Not enough to win that. Not enough to win that start of the week or whatever.
Not enough to win that start of the week. Ronald Jones was a solid play. You likely started him. However, we are honest with you. Joe said he was going to get 17 full PPR points. He came up just short of that. DeMont chose John Brown, and that guy didn't even play. So sorry. And what that stings the most, Justin chose Kenny Galladay. The guy went out and balled for purposes of NFL. He only gave you right around 15 or 20 fantasy points. Justin came out and said he was going to blow up for 25 plus, and that was not the case. So we led you guys astray this week, but we are looking to rebound this week, fellas, with our dark horse picks. And like I said, I'm starting us off. I actually had 2, but I'm going with this one because it fits the narrative, and that's Jarvis Landry, wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns. We just spent an extensive amount of time talking about the absence of Odell Beckham Jr. and how that may or may not have been a factor in Baker Mayfield's improved performance. Now, you may ask yourself, why do I care about Landry when Odell Beckham Jr. wasn't necessarily even fantasy relevant for the last 3 weeks? He's had one good performance. That is very much true. But as we mentioned, just because someone isn't fantasy relevant for football does not mean that in the purposes of NFL games, the actuality of it all is that players like him are game planned for. Defenses prepare for him. Offenses prepare their game plans around him. So when you lose a player like Odell Beckham Jr., you have to go back and you have to change your game plan as an offense. As a defense going in, you are looking at other people to target on defense. I believe that Jarvis Landry will reap the benefits of that, and it starts next week. All right. They play the Raiders. They're a middle of the road passing defense. However, they usually play pretty well against the deep ball. Now, they've given up their fair share of deep ball scores, but they usually do fairly well against the deep ball. It's where Landry will find relevance, as he likely will be peppered with targets over the middle and in short routes. I think that he will find success there. Here's my prediction for the week. I see him with 11 targets, 8 catches, 90 yards. And in other words, that's 17 plus fantasy points for Jarvis Landry this week. Keep in mind, he hasn't scored more than 14 all season, and that was his highest game. Every game before that, or the prior 6 weeks, I believe, or 5, he's had less than 7. So I'm calling for a breakout game for Jarvis Landry, 17 plus fantasy points. And that's mine. So I hope. Where's my applause, guys?
I like that. Really I do. I really do.
And because you applauded me, Justin, I'm handing it off to you next. Who is your dark horse candidate of the week?
My dark horse candidate of the week goes to Mr. Teddy Bridgewater. This guy is a streaming champion. And if you have a couple QBs on bye, the Murrays of the world, and Bridgewater's there, I know you don't have Herbert. You probably don't have Burrow. That's cool. Bridgewater is a beautiful play. Most underrated, I think. That offense is kind of clicking, even though the team is not. The last time they played a bad defense, I loved them versus Arizona. I loved them versus Atlanta. He dropped 30 or plus. They're going against Atlanta, and we know that defense, and we know how those games end. So I'm going Teddy Bridgewater to have a beautiful, safe game, and 30 plus should be a target he can hit against Atlanta. So that's my man. And if they get CMC back, I don't think that changes anything for Bridgewater, because it's not like they're not using Mike Davis the same way. So he's still going to be dumping off to CMC and getting those yards that Mike Davis. And maybe it's might even increase, because those nice short passes could go for a 60-yard bomb any chance. So Bridgewater's the man. I'm streaming him. You should too.
That's a solid pick. And yeah, DJ Moore, man, I think 2 weeks in a row, or it was last week where he caught the slant and took it to the house for like 50 yards. Totally capable of a play like that. And he did it like 2 weeks prior. That's a solid pick, man. Even Justin knows. You even start Kirk Cousins against the Atlanta Falcons. All right. You start your QBs against the Atlanta Falcons. That's a solid pick, my man. Joe, swinging it over to you, man. Who is your dark horse player?
We just talked about him, but Brandon Ayuk. And the reason I say that is because we are going against the Seattle Seahawks. We are down Jeff Wilson. We are down Debo. We are still down Mostert, probably Coleman. We'll see. But it is going to be a high-scoring game.
Joe, wait. You forgot. You're down your entire defense as well.
Yeah, so pretty much. So Verrett, and we'll talk. This is not a defensive show, but our defense has been stepping up. But either way, it's going to be a high-scoring game. Like, I think this game has 60-plus points written all over it. So when you're talking about a game, it's going to be very similar to what we just saw with Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson going back and forth. So my prediction here is that Ayuk, as the number one wide receiver with no Debo, is going to really start to shine. And he's had his moments. He's had some big weeks. I think this week I'm secretly going to say I think he might get 20, but I'm comfortably going to say he's going to get you 14, 15 points this week. And I think that's good enough to throw in a flex spot any day of the week. I'm using him in at least a league, if not two. So I like him. I would roll with him.
Does it force you to increase your estimation if I told you Yahoo has him at 14.23 projected points?
That's fantastic. Yahoo's on my level. I mean, no, because listen, what has he done all season? Let's take a look at it. So if you pull up Ayuk, Jacob has him in this league. So let's take a look. So he just had 17.5. Okay, so this year, I guess he's gone over 14 twice. So out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, he's gone over 14 twice. So
And Debo was out a lot of those weeks, or like he's been. My point is he hasn't gone off every time Debo's out. Like so.
Yeah. So
Good point.
I think that 14. I think 15 is solid. He's gonna have 15 plus on you.
I think that's fair because I think for me, if we have no other way to measure it, I'd say we look at the Yahoo full PPR projections, and if your dark horse exceeds that, then I guess it's a fair like measuring stick. I would say.
I would say that even though Yahoo has him at 14, I don't think many people feel like this about Ayuk. So it is a good dark horse.
And also, he's a guy who you're not sure if you're going to start. That's what.
Exactly.
Look, you could pick a guy like Kenny Golladay and say he's going for 25 because that's a lot of points, right? That's fair to do. But I think with Ayuk, right, people aren't sure if they're going to start him this week or not. And you're saying they should, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree with you. That was my second choice, actually.
What was your first?
If somebody didn't take, well, Gabe, is it my turn?
It is your turn, my friend.
So I was going to go with Ayuk, but I figured, I don't know. He's kind of on the borderline, like, we know he's going to be the number one wide receiver, so we'll see how he goes, but that's still a good choice. For mine's a super sleeper because I know a lot of people probably aren't starting him and they're probably not even rostering him anymore. And this is Mike Gesicki. I think Mike Gesicki is going to have a solid game and a solid rest of season. Look, we know he's capable. He has the talent. If he had I don't know why, like I can't explain his terrible games this year. I don't know how to explain it. It's just maybe Fitzpatrick, passes the ball around too much. I don't know. We have a rookie quarterback making his starting debut. I'm not too familiar with Tua's game, but I do know that a lot of times when a quarterback is not quite comfortable yet, they like to rely on their tight end or a big guy down the middle. While we have seen other players burst in this offense, and Mike Gesicki had a couple good weeks, one great week, I think this week Mike Gesicki is gonna he's projected for 10 full PPR points, but I'm saying Mike Gesicki is gonna get you 14 plus fantasy points this week in full PPR, and I think he's gonna have a good rest of season too.
My man, that is not a bad pick. We spent a considerable amount of time early in the season specifically talking about Tua and Mike Gesicki. And I specifically remember Jacob and I don't even think Joe was on the show that week. I think it was Damon. But I spent a considerable amount of time talking about how Mike Gesicki probably won't have the best start to his season. But at any point, if they make that pivot to Tua, look out for Mike Gesicki. The man will feast on fantasy production. And Jacob is now mentioning it here again. So be on the lookout for that. I just dropped him. I didn't even think about that. Well, actually, I dropped him before the news. Can we briefly talk about that for a moment, guys? You're looking at a Miami Dolphins team that is, I believe, 3-3. Fitzmagic has been playing some of the best ball of his career. A lot of beat reporters are saying, like, hey, this was the plan all along. Week 8 after the bye, we're putting in Tua no matter what. 0-7, 5-1. We're doing a systematic plan. This is how we're going about it. What do you guys think, though? This team is easily in contention to still win the division. And now you're just throwing it on the shoulders of a rookie who has not even been tackled yet, guys. This is a guy who's coming off a hip surgery.
Joe is our Dolphins insider, so we'll go to him.
Joe, yes, I'm handing it over to you.
Bro, I am the Dolphins insider. So listen, I talk to my girl's dad about the Dolphins. Usually a lot leading up to the season, right? We just go back and forth. And I talked to him on the draft when they got Tua, and he was obviously very excited. He'd been talking to me about Tua since last year. So it was something that he wanted from the beginning. So when we talked over the summer and he kind of said, hey, listen, what we're going to do is we're going to start Tua from week one. He's going to win the battle with Fitzmagic. And I said, no, he's not. I said, go look at the Dolphins' start of the season. They have the Niners. They have the Seahawks. They had a few other tough games. They had, I think it was the Patriots and the Bills. And I said, there's no way in hell they're going to throw Tua out there to lead a team as a rookie coming off a big injury to a 1-5 or 0-6 start. They're just not going to do it. They're going to let Fitzmagic get in there. And my prediction was that he was going to come in week 6 against the Dolphins or against the Jets. And you know what? I actually think that was the plan. I think they expected to lose to the Niners. They went out and whooped that ass. As a Niner fan, it was very depressing, but they whooped them, right? And so how do you whoop the Niners and then say, oh, sorry, Fitzmagic, we're going to bench you even though you just beat the team that was in the Super Bowl last year? You can't do it, right? But then they go out, they beat the Jets, but it was a game they were expected to win. And then they have a bye week. So now makes sense, hey, we're going to transition. Because it was the plan from the beginning was to get him in. So I predicted week 6. I think we have that on the podcast when we talked about it earlier about Tua. And hey, I'm excited for it. I'm surprised you guys are giving Gesicki a bump, but I could see it. I could see him and Gaskin both getting a bump, and we'll see what happens with Parker and Preston, though.
To jump on the Gesicki bandwagon, I was reading something from a Florida beat writer over there, and he said that the whole year Gesicki's been taking scout team reps all year, meaning that him and Tua have been working week in, week out together.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking, look, they're both young. They probably you gravitate towards guys your age when you're on the team. Gesicki's 23. Tua's probably, I don't know how old Tua is. He's probably 21, 22. I'm sure they've, and I didn't even know that, Justin. So that's a good point.
Yeah. I will.
Preston?
What's that?
More than Devontae going forward?
What'd you say?
I don't know, bro. Because look, I don't know Tua's game that well enough. I don't know if he's a deep passer or not, or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I still think Devontae. I wouldn't trade Devontae Parker for Preston Williams. No way. But I still think Devontae Parker's a better receiver right now. But I don't know how it's going to shake out going forward because I love Parker with Fitzmagic. I don't know how he's going to do it Tua.
Yeah. It would be nice if both of them got traded. Together.
Right. My answer is have to do Fitzmagic a piece of respect and know that he deserves to play. Send him to Dallas. Let him win over there at least. Give him a chance.
Man, that team.
Hey, we'll move on real quick, but I heard today that they said Dallas is not going to look for another quarterback while Dalton is going to miss a game or two.
Because they're so bad. They're going to probably tank for Trevor Lawrence now and get rid of Dak Prescott. They're going to do Dak dirty, bro. They're going to do him dirty, and it's sad to see.
I don't know if it's true, but Dalton might have the most expensive backup quarterback contract. That may be a reason they don't want to dish any more money.
I think Mariota has that contract locked up.
I heard the exact opposite. I heard they're going to be buyers. They're just not looking for a quarterback. Listen, they are 2-5, which is shit. But they are only the Eagles.
They could still win that division.
Not still win it. They're in it. They're there, dude.
No, I know.
Niners are 3 and they're in last place in the division, and it pisses me off to see the 2-4-1 Eagles at number 1.
Well, that's the thing. If they got Fitzpatrick, first of all, fantasy-wise, that would be amazing. Yeah. But also for them, they could win. They could win the division and go to the playoffs with that.
Well, I hope it's just coach speak that, hey, Dalton's our guy. We're sticking with it.
I forgot who mentioned money, but I think it was Justin that Fitzmagic's making $4 million, so they would have to take that. And then I didn't know this, but whatever salary cap you don't use this year rolls into next year in the NFL. Yeah. I didn't know that. So people are saying, why are they going to waste $4 million on that? But like you said, they could easily win that division with Fitzpatrick.
Yeah,
100%.
Let's see it.
Guys, honestly, no matter what you say, that division is so horrible. even the Cowboys can't pull that out. I don't see that happening. Third string quarterback, Dalton, it's a mess. Eagles are going to beat them. The Giants are going to beat them. They're going to get trampled over. It's going to be a bloody bloodbath in Dallas. With that being said, Justin, I was right. Mariota, 2 years, $17.6 million. Dalton's on a 1 year prove it deal, like $1.7 million or something like that. So Mariota's the guy for backups to spend a lot of money on. Hey, did we get all of our picks in?
Yeah, we did.
Let's move on.
You are out of here. Whatever. I don't really care. I'm just gonna sit this one out.
What is up?
Was that the dog was part of the soundbite?
Bro, there's ghosts everywhere, man. They're scared of our Fool's Gold picks.
We should try to make these last segments quick.
Yeah, we will. Fool's Gold, let's look at last week. Let's see. Mine was David Montgomery. I believe that was a success story. Thank you very much. We talked about it on the show. Jacob chose Derek Carr. He went out. He had a little bit better of a performance than his projected 15 fantasy points. Joseph, rightly so, decided on Juju Smith-Schuster. Unfortunately, Juju had one of his up weeks, which good for him. He's my favorite player. DeMont went with the Eagles RBs. Boston Scott had a good week, so that ruled him out. And last but not least, Justin chose Deebo Samuel. Of course, he went out with the injury, but we still count that as a dub. Not, we're not here promoting injuries or anything, but hey, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. With that being said, I've gone first a lot today. I'm going to hand it over. Justin, who is your Fool's Gold player of the week?
Fool's Gold of the player of the week is DeAndre Swift against the Colts. That defense is real good. We've seen what happens. Look at the Viking game. They shut everybody down. It just turns into a mess, a slow game. You can't milk the clock, run with them with your running back. They just get ahead and you force the pass, and their pass defense is great. They're amazing. Swift is, I don't know if you can bench him, but I would if I had a better option out there. That's my Fool's Gold.
Short, sweet, to the point, and I do not like it. It's a good one. Joseph, going over to you, my man. Fool's Gold player of the week.
This one's tough for me, man. I had another guy. I had Devin Singletary on my radar, but I don't know if that's a cop-out because he's so bad. So I'm going to say Melvin Gordon. It's a revenge week against the Chargers, but the Chargers have a damn good defense with Joey Bosa anchoring that and Melvin Ingram and all those guys. So I'm going to say, and he played awful. Lindsey was starting to take that lead before he got the concussion. So I think Melvin Gordon, you have to start him, but he's getting you 10 11 points, and he's going to be lucky to do that based on some pass down work.
Not bad at all. Jacob, Fool's Gold player of the week.
So my Fool's Gold is going to be Ronald Jones. I think it's going to be a similar situation to this week, and I know Joe talked about it earlier. I think it was before we started the podcast, but I just think, look, they're going to get up. The Tampa Bay is going to get up again early, and then they're just going to, like you said, I think they view Ronald Jones as the guy that's going to help them win the most this year. So I think they're going to let Fournette or somebody else run the clock out because I don't think this is going to be a close game. He's projected to have a decent game against the terrible Giants, but I just think that he's not going to reach even his prediction right now in Yahoo. So I'm going Ronald Jones, under 12 fantasy points.
Hold on, slightly off topic. Is Brady going to do enough against the awful Giants to be fantasy relevant this week? Well, you start him.
That's tough.
I think he gets you 240 and probably 2. So that's like 20 fantasy points. Yeah, it's not bad.
Look, man, with weeks where I've seen starting quarterbacks get like 14, 16, I'm happy with like 22 points these days. So, I mean, I guess I would start him, but it's tough because it's a hard one because, like, for me, I look at it as, do I bench Brady and drop another player to pick up another quarterback? Like, I feel like that's doing too much. I'll just ride with Brady. And I'm actually facing that situation in the league. Well,
I have Watson, who's obviously on bye, and I actually have Brady as the backup. I I think he's probably the best option out there. I know there's Drew Brees and Minshew and some other garbage, but I think I'm gonna roll with Brady. Dude. I think
you have to.
Yeah,
Hey,
I'm just
when
worried it's gonna be too much of a blowout, and he doesn't do enough. But we'll see.
Well,
When
like
in-
Justin says, hopefully Brady's the reason they're up so much.
Yeah,
that's very true. When in doubt, go with the GOAT. That's Brady boy. Hey, Joe, you talked about not copping out earlier. Guess what? I'm totally copping out here. I'm avoiding specifically CD Lamb and Michael Gallup this week. They absolutely laid turds against a very good Washington defense. And you might think, well, hey, they're going to have a rebound next week. I don't think it gets any easier with a third-string quarterback coming into town. Those guys usually tend to migrate towards the ones on the team. That's Amari Cooper. That's Zeke. That's Schultz, tight end. Same thing with Troy Tualua. You're going to see the same thing here with the third-string quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. And I think CD and Gallup don't see any of that love or attention. So I'm staying clear and away from them. It's a shame because CD's been flex
Man,
and
I'm so sad.
quite
He was
arguably wide receiver 2 on the year. Or
he was wide
two
receiver
numbers.
11 in our leagues before Dak went out. It's so sad to see.
I don't.
mean,
Yeah, it's just a shame. And like I said, I'm taking the easy way out. But hey, prove me wrong. Have a good week. I'll be more happy to see him have success than to be my fool's gold. So I'll just say that. But I'm looking to pivot elsewhere in the starting lineup. That's our fool's gold players of the week, guys. I don't have too much of a. We're gonna move on. We're gonna keep on trucking today, and we're gonna scheme all the way because I have a pretty good viewer question, and I want to go ahead and look at our. Actually, you know what? Hey, who has a trade target? I don't have one. Joe, do you have a trade target today? Buy or sell?
I do. I have both.
I'm glad I didn't skip the segment. Let's go ahead.
I'll make it very quick. You're trading away Todd Gurley after this upcoming week. He's playing against Carolina Panthers. He had his best game against the Carolina Panthers. You keep him. You let him go off for 25, 30, and you sell him. He had 23 carries last week. He got 63 yards. He's been averaging like 3 yards a carry. It's not been pretty. He's been getting a lot of touchdowns, but I don't know that you can rely on that, especially with Todd Gurley. My second one is who you trade for, and that's the man in my name, and that's Swift. And I'll tell you why is because coming into the bye week, he had not seen more than 8 targets. That was his max. He had 3 games with 8 targets, one with like 4. Since the bye week, 17 and 13. And that team is competitive, and I get Adrian Peterson is old reliable, but DeAndre Swift is doing way better. And I don't know. I didn't watch the game. I saw it on Yahoo. It looked like DeAndre Swift had a 52-yard run that was called back on a holding. And had he done that, he's going for 20 points last week. So I know that he might not be the greatest person to start this week against the Colts, but listen, Adrian Peterson is not going to have success against that defensive line with Buckner over there. So what you do is you start DeAndre Swift because he's going to be involved in the pass down work. So I like DeAndre Swift, and I'm trading for him for sure.
Can't disagree there. Justin, you got to buy or sell?
Yeah, by Stephon Diggs. There's some reports out there that he's kind of been like lackluster, not really competitive. I don't really care, to be honest, because that stuff can change week to week. He came out with a bad week, 10.5 points basically, but 11 targets. John Brown missing means a lot more than anyone realizes, especially for Stephon Diggs. When he comes back, it's another dude that takes defensive attention away. I try to buy him low for another hotter guy that's coming out that people rather have, and maybe a casual out there doesn't care enough to keep Diggs and just sees a bad week. Definitely buy him. As far as trade away, I try to get rid of CD Lamb as quick as possible while he still has value. That offense, we've already hit it. He's been great when they had a real quarterback, but maybe that person that doesn't pay attention too much. Oh, CD Lamb, what's his stats? Sure, I'll try him. You know what I mean? Get rid of that Dallas offense in total. Except
really quick, Justin, would you trade Tyler Lockett to get Stephon Diggs? Jacob, you got to buy or sell for us today?
I would still try to buy Ezekiel Elliott if you can, to be honest. Look, once the season gets once the Cowboys get going with whoever their backup's going to be, Dalton, or like Dalton didn't even get a chance to settle into that role yet. Whoever it is, the third string guy or Dalton, Zeke's going to pan out to be a very solid, like low end RB1, high end RB2. He's going to get the volume. I think Zeke's good enough to figure it out. He gets a lot of passing work too, like surprisingly. And look, I'm throwing that last game away, to be honest. So I would still buy Zeke if you can. And look, people still are stingy with Zeke just because of who he is. But still, now's the time to trade for him, because the second he has another 20-point game, you're going to have to trade the world for him again. So I would try to get Zeke.
That's a good one, Jacob.
Enough. Yeah, it's a solid one. Even with the tough schedule, I mean, Zeke's going to eat, right? That's the saying. So be on the lookout. Let's take a look, boys, at our first round or our first ever first round fantasy podcasters league results in week 7. We took on Chumps to Champs podcast. We laid the smack down, beat them in a large part due to Lockett. He had a 60-point performance in that league. So thank you, Lockett. The rest of our team really didn't do so hot. Next week, oh, by the way, Chumps to Champs, great to listen to. The guy's got a voice of an angel. It puts me to sleep at night, and not in the negative way, in like the good way. So I'm just going to say it like that. Coming up next, though, we got the Fantasy Football Sackos, and I like saying their name, and I just
Did we win?
Yeah, we won.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, we take on the Fantasy.
Pretty good.
It's pretty good. Next week, though.
4-3.
We're 5-2. 5-2.
Nice.
Next week, we take on the Fantasy Football Sackos. Early in the season, actually right before the season started, I had the pleasure of joining these guys on their podcast, man, and their quality is top notch. Like they do not get enough credit. They do not get enough love, man. The intros, the cuts, the quality of their podcast is exemplary. I loved being a part of it when I had the chance to hop on there in the beginning of the season, and I continue to listen to this day. They always have some funny takes on there and just good content overall. Unfortunately, that's not going to lead to your success in the first ever first round Fantasy Podcasters League, because we're looking to get that dub, bud. Shout out to you guys. We look forward to playing with you.
Hey, are we not going to be smacking that ass like you said last time?
No, Jacob, I wanted to leave that in the past. Okay, why'd you bring that up?
He was like, "We're gonna be smacking that ass," and I was like, "What?" And me and Demont were cracking up. It was. I'm saving that soundbite, man. It's not going away.
Do what you gotta do, guys. Viewer question of the week. You're gonna give me some chuckles for this one, but it's from none other. I think we know this person. It's from Alyssa Howard over on Facebook. Hey. Guess what? We're on Facebook now.
Nice.
So thanks for going ahead and bringing in the viewer question. I'll walk upstairs and say thank you in the very nicest way I know how. If you're listening to this, don't be creeped out by that. Alyssa Howard's my girlfriend, everybody. I should have addressed that before I said I'd walk into this random girl's room after the podcast.
Hey, you're being creepy on Halloween. It's all good, bro.
It's how we do it, right? Her question is very festive, right? It is, first and foremost, who is your favorite NFL player? And secondly, how do they compare to your favorite treat? And she says here in parentheses, because she's a teacher, she's very correct. Candy. So who's our favorite player? And if we could compare them to one of our favorite piece of candy, or if we could compare them to just a piece of candy in general, what candy would that be? All right. What candy would that be?
Man. I think Joe and I might have the same player, but
no,
I'll tell you what.
Yours is George Kittle, right?
Yeah, it is.
I love George Kittle, but my favorite player is Deebo Samuel.
Nice.
And, God damn, I don't know, man. He's like a Snicker because he hits you like a fucking truck, dude. That guy.
How does a Snicker hit you like a truck? What?
Look, I know, Joe. It's thick and solid, and it's strong. You can't break a Snicker in half.
Yeah.
Easily.
So, I mean, like, and if you ever heard, like, if you're hungry, get a Snicker, so, like,
yeah.
Dude, did you guys watch the game? I mean, obviously me and Jacob did, but I don't know if you guys did. There was like 3 or 4 plays where Deebo just lowered his shoulder and just, dude, for a wide receiver and one that he's not huge. Like, he's a chunky boy, but he's not like, I don't know, he's not Kenny Galladay,
So we got Debo Samuel as a Snickers bar. Jacob, you want to hop on with your man George Kittle?
Yeah, it's got to be George Kittle, man. He's my favorite player on my favorite team, and he's like my favorite candy Sour Patch Kids because he's a sweet guy, right? He can be charismatic and like he's very joyful to talk to. He's nice and sweet, but on the field, he's sour, man. He's gonna knock people over. He's gonna put a sour taste in the opponent's mouth. So George Kittle and Sour Patch Kids.
Nice.
That's a good one, man. Justin, what about you, bud? Who's your favorite player, and what's he? What kind of treat is he like, huh? What kind of candy?
I got to go with my boy Dalvin Cook, and that dude is a Milky Way because he's smooth and silky as you
Oh,
can get.
that's a good one.
He's not the biggest runner, and he will truck someone, but the way that dude tiptoes around, I love him.
Dude, that's
perfect. Yeah.
That's out of all three of your players, I like them all, but the candies guys, what the hell, man? Hey, I appreciate Joe's Snickers choice, but who eats Milky Ways, dude? That's too creamy for my style.
Sour Patch Kids are the greatest candy on earth.
All right, guys, you ready for mine? I think you already know what it is. Oh wait, what were you gonna say, Joe?
Gibbs is Patrick Mahomes, and he's a payday.
Oh, damn. Good one, Gabe. Good one, Gabe.
That's what I do, but you know that ain't it. That's a good one though, actually. But no, of course not. Mine is the man himself, Juju Smith-Schuster, of the wide receiver of the Pittsburgh Steelers. That guy is my dog, man. I ride to him. I've never been one of those guys to like follow a young NFL. I don't even follow NFL players for that matter. But there's just something about Juju, dude. He's like the kid that's a grown adult that I've always wanted to be. So like I follow him on Instagram. I follow him everywhere. And the dude's just playing Call of Duty and, playing football all day. And I love it. It's freaking awesome, dude. And if I had to compare him to a candy in terms of his NFL work, I'd like to think of him as a now or later. All right. And the reason why I say that is because like Joe this week, he didn't really want them then. And that's kind of how I feel about now or laters, man. When I first get a pack of them, I'm like, I'm not going to eat now or laters. These things are outdated, dude. They're just like, whatever. But guess what? They're hard, right? Yeah. They're not that good. But in the end, you end up eating those now or laters later, right? You end up eating them. You're sitting there. And Juju,
or he's not going to ball out for
later.
you now, but he'll ball out for you later, though.
Hey, he's not going to ball out for you now, but he's going to ball out for you later. So be on the lookout for Juju Smith-Schuster.
Hey,
probably next year.
I heard you guys talk about it. He could be an Oakland or a Las Vegas Raider next year. I think that's a great fit.
Man, Joe,
that's a great
that was a solid one, dude.
Talk about that again real quick, and I know we're running out of time. Dude, I read because I thought for sure, okay, Juju's got to be pissed, man. He's the number one guy. He's not getting the targets. He's falling behind. I read that he's the happiest guy on the team, that he loves it. That Claypool goes off, he's cheering. Now, this could be bullshit, but they're 6-1, right?
Well, I heard that, too, from Big Ben,
I'm telling you, man, you don't follow him on every single social media platform. The dude's just happy in general. He's making millions of dollars a year playing Call of Duty till 3 a.m. and then waking up at 10 to go to practice from 11 to 3, and then he eats Pizza Hut all day. It's just like the dude's awesome, bro.
So if the Steelers make it to the NFC Championship, like it looks very possible right now that they may be playing the Chiefs this year, or at least in the conversation. And Juju's going to be a big part. He may not be a big part week in and week out, but he'll have his weeks, and so will Deontay, and so will Claypool. So who knows, man? We'll see.
Hey, honestly, guys, they are like the other good teams of fantasy football. Look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. You never know who the guy is going to be week in and week out. And for the NFL purposes, that's exactly what you want. You want defenses trying to figure out who we're going to prep for this week. What do we do here? For fantasy, it's like, well, damn, I guess I'm going to dart throw this guy out there. It just happens to be like that. Every week someone's going to blow up, but that's how the good NFL offenses are. So I hope you guys like that. Thank you so much, Alyssa Howard, for the viewer question. As always, if you have a question for the show, we are now 3 places: firstroundfantasy@gmail.com, Instagram @firstroundfantasy. Feel free to DM us or send us a message on Facebook @firstroundfantasy. With that being said, are any of us wearing the merch tonight? No, we're not, because
Laundry day.
Laundry day, of course. I actually did do laundry today, so I can say that.
Elections, get out and vote, America.
Hey, go out and vote. It is up to you, folks. Your vote counts. While you're doing it, go out and say, buy a first round fantasy t-shirt and then stick your I voted sticker on top of that.
There you
Okay.
go.
You can get those at T Public. All right. Hey, guess what? They're on sale. Go get them and rep us proudly. All right. Last but not least, you can listen to us everywhere. YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, anywhere you get your podcast, we are there, Apple included. We'd love to hear from you guys. Drop a review, drop a like, drop a sub. We need it. We want your help, and we love you guys. So we'll be eternally grateful if you do. That's all for us, folks. We are heading out. Stay safe this weekend and enjoy your Halloween. We're out. Peace.